I am still alive. So I've been playing Plane Crazy again, and for the past week or so, I've been working on this new rotor design. It's not called a swashplate, it is called a rotor system actually. It is a coaxial rotor, not a regular rotor, because regular rotors are just too hard. It's a big hassle. You gotta figure out how to do things like the symmetrical lift, asymmetrical lift, and the tail rotor. It's all just a huge mess. I would rather use coaxial, or if you're fancy, you can do tandem as well. The point is, it's just easier to build a control. So that's what I went with. The last rotor system I made was made back in 2020, which is quite a while ago. And the game has updated a lot. There has been new blocks, new mechanisms, and I've been trying to utilize them. And I think I did okay. It's still not as good as my previous swashplate though, that's for sure. But a big difference is that it is a 4-blade design instead of the 2-blade, and it is rigid. It is not semi-rigid. So 4 blades, a total of 8 blades, 2 rotors stacked on top of one another. And then we have the cyclic pitch, the cycle controls, and then the collective pitch, which pitches every single blade. And I guess it flies alright. And the performance and stability will depend on your frame rate, because the physics engine is dependent on your frame rate. The higher frame rate, the more often the physics step will run, and the smoother your overall experience will be. So right now it is alright. Being a helicopter rotor, it has all of the usual controls you may expect, such as pitching and rolling and yawing. The yawing does not come from the swashplate, it comes from these control surfaces here. And the way it works is that it's changing the torque needed to spin the rotors, and the difference in torque causes the entire thing to rotate. And something different that I do with my swashplates is that instead of just being one, it's actually 2 swashplates. It's got this layer on the bottom, and then the actual swashplate in the middle here, and then the rotor on the top. The bottom one here is to help with stability, because usually when you only have one swashplate, you have the pitch rod here, which changes the pitch of the blades. Sometimes this thing can bend, and it causes the swashplate to desynchronize, and that will mess up your helicopter. So the idea is, I have the suspension here. It's rigid. It forces the pitch rods. It forces the pitch rod to be vertical, so that way there's no chance of it ever bending, and that should help make it more reliable. And I've got pistons here because this suspension, it is not only move up and down, it can also move sideways, because this is a hinge. For the cycle controls, it's not too fancy. I just have a bunch of servos hooked up. The rotational movement gets translated into linear movement. So this part here will rotate, but this part here, it will move up and down, which will tilt the swashplate. The collective pitch is just ropes. Very simple. And if you want a demonstration of how a swashplate works in case you're out of the loop, I do have a demo here. This is actually a semi-rigid rotor, but I can turn this into a rigid just by doing this. So we have the swashplate and then the cycle controls, and it also has my my double swashplate design here in the bottom. So for the cycle controls, you just tilt the swashplate, and depending on which way you tilt it, it will cause the blades to rotate in different spots. And it's hard to see it right now, but the blades are tilting as it rotates. I have a camera here. Right now I'm not doing anything, but if I hold down one of the cycle controls, the blades will start oscillating. It will start rotating back and forth. And it will always rotate down whenever I'm facing the grass, and rotate up whenever I'm facing the back. And this consistent change in the lift is what makes the entire thing rotate up and down. And if I want to turn this back into a semi-rigid rotor, I just undo what I just did here. A semi-rigid rotor, the blades are not directly attached to the hub. That's also what it's called, the rotor. And the way it's attached is that it can act like a seesaw. So in addition to rotating, it can also flap. It can move up and down. And why is this useful? I will not explain because it's too complicated. You probably don't care either. So just know that there's different types of rotors. There's rigid, semi-rigid, and fully articulated, which is even harder. I'm never doing that. And for comparison, this is my older coaxial rotor system. It is semi-rigid, but it's only got 2 blades on each rotor as opposed to 4. And works more or less in the same way. It has the second controls using those servos, and it tilts the swash plates. So yeah, swash plates. That's about it.